The imposing mansion stood proudly in the most affluent neighborhood of the city, a symbol of Gabriel's undeniable success. From the height of its expansive windows, he gazed over his sprawling property with quiet pride, recalling the sleepless nights and sacrifices that had brought him to this moment. Wealthy, influential, and respected, Gabriel embodied the image of a man who had achieved everything he desired. Beside him stood Isabella, his wife, her elegance undeniable as she seemed to share his satisfaction, though her eyes carried a shadow of something he failed to notice. "Is this what they call paradise on earth, Gabriel?" Isabella asked in a voice almost too soft to hear. He smiled, wrapping an arm around her. "Yes, Isabella, this is everything I ever dreamed of, and it's just the beginning for us." Gabriel had built his empire with relentless determination, his life a ceaseless grind of work and discipline. Isabella admired his drive, at least outwardly, and was accustomed to the world he created. That evening, Gabriel turned to her with excitement. "Let's go out tonight. I've reserved a table at your favorite restaurant. You deserve nothing less than the best." She smiled at his suggestion and nodded, hiding a fleeting expression of disdain. Gabriel, glued to his schedule and his phone, failed to notice. His life revolved around contracts, decisions, and deals, and he believed Isabella was the perfect partner to stand beside him. Yet, as much as he prided himself on building a life of security for them both, Isabella had her own plans. Later that evening, Isabella excused herself under the pretense of a solo movie outing. Gabriel, trusting and busy with work, didn't question her. "Enjoy the film, dear," he said, pleased she was taking some time for herself. But Isabella didn't go to the cinema. Instead, she drove to a quiet parking lot near a closed department store where she met Sebastian, Gabriel's younger brother. Sebastian was leaning casually against a lamppost, his eyes sharp and calculating. "Everything is ready," he said, his voice low. Isabella glanced around to ensure no one could overhear them. "Tomorrow morning, Gabriel has an important meeting, and he'll be taking the car. This will look like a perfect accident. No one will suspect a thing." Sebastian nodded in satisfaction. Together, they had crafted a plan to eliminate Gabriel and secure his vast fortune. With his access to the mansion's garage, Sebastian would tamper with the brakes of Gabriel's car, ensuring everything appeared as a tragic mishap. "By this time tomorrow, everything will be ours," Sebastian said with a smirk. However, the parking lot was not as empty as it seemed. Hidden behind an old vending machine, a young girl named Arya was seeking shelter from the cold. Arya had grown up on the streets, sharp and observant out of necessity. Hearing the conspirators' hushed voices, she crept closer, her heart racing as she pieced together their plot. Though she was just a child, she grasped the gravity of what she had overheard. As Isabella and Sebastian parted ways, Arya stayed hidden, her mind racing. She didn't know Gabriel, but she understood he was in danger. Though fear gripped her, she resolved to warn him. Waiting until Isabella drove away, Arya made the bold decision to follow her, carefully staying out of sight. The houses grew larger and more luxurious as Arya trailed the car until it finally turned into a gated estate. Arya stayed in the shadows, memorizing every detail of the mansion before retreating to plan her next steps. The next morning, just as dawn broke, Arya positioned herself near the gates of the estate. She was nervous. Gabriel was a powerful man, and she was just a homeless girl with no proof of what she had overheard. Would he believe her? Her heart pounded as she saw the car approach. Summoning all her courage, she ran into its path, waving her arms frantically. Gabriel slammed on the brakes, startled by the sudden appearance of the girl. Rolling down his window, he frowned. "What are you doing? This is private property." "Please, sir, I need to talk to you," Arya said, her voice trembling but urgent. "It's about your safety." Gabriel hesitated, his initial annoyance softening as he noticed the fear in her eyes. "Speak quickly," he said. Arya took a deep breath. "Your wife and your brother, they're planning something terrible. I overheard them last night. They want to tamper with your car's brakes to make it look like an accident." Gabriel's expression hardened, disbelief flickering across his face. "That's absurd," he said. "Isabella and Sebastian would never." "Please," Arya interrupted, desperation in her voice. "I know it sounds crazy, but check your car before you leave. Just check. I heard them planning everything." Though skeptical, Gabriel couldn't shake the girl's earnestness. Against his better judgment, he decided to have his mechanic inspect the vehicle. Moments later, the mechanic's grim expression confirmed Aria's warning. The brakes had indeed been tampered with. Gabriel's disbelief turned to shock and anger. The betrayal cut deeper than he could have imagined. Isabella, the woman he loved, and Sebastian, his own brother, had plotted to kill him. He turned to Aria, who stood quietly nearby, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. "Why would you risk so much to warn me?" Gabriel asked, his voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't let it happen," Aria said simply. "It was wrong." Gabriel's heart softened as he looked at the brave girl who had saved his life. "You've done more for me than I can ever repay," he said, "but I'll make sure you're never alone again." That evening, Gabriel devised a plan. To confront Isabella and Sebastian, he needed evidence, and he needed them to believe their plan had succeeded. He worked with his lawyer to update his will, ensuring that if his death occurred under suspicious circumstances, Isabella would receive nothing. Then, he and Aria set about staging an accident. The next morning, Gabriel left the estate under the pretense of heading to his country house. Isabella watched him go with a subtle, satisfied smile. "Take care, darling," she said sweetly, masking the anticipation in her voice. Gabriel drove to a secluded road where he and Aria set the scene. Using a small device, he triggered a fire in the car, ensuring it would appear as though he had perished in an accident. From a safe distance, he and Aria watched as the flames consumed the vehicle. The news of Gabriel's death spread quickly, and Isabella played the grieving widow to perfection. Sebastian, too, put on a show of mourning, though their private conversations revealed their true feelings. "It's done," Isabella said to Sebastian, her voice low with satisfaction. "Now we just wait for the inheritance." "Finally," Sebastian replied, his grin smug, "everything we worked for is within reach." But Gabriel and Aria, watching from the shadows, were one step ahead. They carefully monitored Isabella and Sebastian's actions, gathering evidence to expose their treachery. Days later, Isabella and Sebastian arrived at the lawyer's office, eager to claim their prize. They wore somber expressions, though their excitement was barely concealed. The lawyer greeted them with professional solemnity, beginning to read Gabriel's will. As the assets and provisions were outlined, Isabella felt her heart race with anticipation. But then the lawyer paused, his tone shifting. "There's a special clause," he said. "In the event of an accidental or suspicious death, the inheritance is void for both the wife and the next of kin." Isabella and Sebastian froze, their carefully crafted masks slipping. "What?" Isabella said, her voice shaking. "That can't be right." "It's all here, signed and documented," the lawyer replied. Before they could recover, the door opened, and Gabriel walked in, alive and well. Isabella's and Sebastian's faces turned pale as they stared at him, stunned into silence. "Surprised to see me?" Gabriel asked, his voice calm but cold. "I know everything." The room fell silent as Gabriel detailed their betrayal. Isabella tried to protest, her voice trembling. "Gabriel, you don't understand. Save it," Gabriel interrupted. "You chose greed over loyalty, over love. And you, Sebastian, how could you betray your own brother?" As they stammered for excuses, Gabriel signaled to the police officers waiting outside. Isabella and Sebastian were handcuffed, their protests ignored as they were led away. When the room was quiet again, Gabriel turned to Aria. "You saved my life," he said. "And now I'm going to change yours." Over the following weeks, Gabriel took Aria under his wing. He provided her with a home, education, and opportunities she had never dreamed of. Though the betrayal he endured left deep scars, the bond he formed with Aria became a source of healing and renewal. Together, they rebuilt their lives, proving that even in the face of treachery, trust and loyalty could forge an unbreakable connection.